everyone, it's me again. I know it's been a while since I last posted. When I started this channel, I started it with the full intention of uploading regularly and being consistent with my uploads, and trying to. I was even taking notes. I was like, you know what? Every time I think of content that I can put in the podcast episode, or ideas, or segments, or news that I thought was worthy of being on the podcast episode, I tried to accumulate it, a huge amount, and then bust out a super long episode. And I did. I think I did like 3 or 4 consistent ones. And then life happened, and I had a bunch of stuff happen in my personal life. Good stuff. None of it was bad. It was all great. It just took a lot of my free time away that I was originally dedicating to videos. Now I was dedicating it toward buying a new house, getting a new puppy. So now I have 2. Decorating the new house, cleaning, preparing, everything that goes into buying a house. Super long, a little bit stressful. Overall, very rewarding. I'm very happy about it. But that's where I've been rather than making videos. I've been just dealing with that stuff. Oh, and I got a new job, which has been great. I've loved it. It challenges me, which is something I feel like I need in my life. I get a little bit bored if I'm doing something that I don't find challenging, well, I guess if I don't find it challenging, I don't think I find it very rewarding. And so I'm very happy with how the new job's going so far. I'm still the new guy, still doing a bunch of training, but I see a lot of potential for I would say a long future in this job, or at least in this field. So that's that. I'm very happy about where I am now. And I think that now I have established a decent enough schedule, or decent enough kind of flow in my life where I'll be able to create videos in my free time and schedule that out. By the way, if you hear any weird sounds, my 2 puppies are playing right next to me. This is actually also my office that I use for work during the week. So I kind of have the same setup both when I'm. Those are the dogs. When I'm work. One sec. Hey. Good. That's, by the way, for any of you that watch dog training stuff, I got super into looking up dog training books and videos as I was getting prepared to get my first puppy a while ago. And I had heard of Cesar Millan before, but I got into like this deep, like Cesar Millan, like online fandom community type thing, a little bit weird. But that works, man. I use it on my dogs all the time, and every time they're like, "Oh snap!" Like we're in trouble. So for those of you who have dogs, if they get a little crazy, just try it on them. Try it. It works for Caesar. It worked for me. It might work for you. So yeah, you might hear a fooch throughout this video if my dogs keep playing in the background. One of them actually kind of sounds like a monkey. It's kind of weird. Like when he was playing, when we first got him, he's a little puppy, and we would give him little toys and stuff, and he would start to sound like a monkey, and we thought it was kind of weird, but we thought maybe it was a phase that he was going to grow out of, but he didn't. He still sounds like a monkey, even though he's a grown dog now. I guess he's still a puppy, but he's a more matured dog compared to when we first got him. All right, well, that's enough about where I've been. That's enough about my dogs in the background, although you might hear them, like I said. Let's go ahead. I have my laptop over here. I put some notes on for me to kind of stay on track and not go off on too many tangents. With these new episodes, as I move forward on the channel, I decided that I'm just going to mix a bunch of topics, just mix whatever I want to talk about into one episode, rather than have a specific episode designated to a fight card or a specific set of movies. I think it'd be better to just create this huge mix, and then I'm going to include timestamps on my videos in the description. So if you're looking for a specific topic, or at least a specific category of news or of conversation, you can go ahead and check the description, check the time code for what you're looking for, listen to that clip, and then you can come back and listen to the rest if you'd like. I'm also thinking about uploading individual clips, like I've seen a lot of podcasts do on this platform. and we'll see how that works. I might try that. It is a little bit more work, but even that would be less work than just creating 2 or 3 separate episodes for like whole categories of topics. That's that's that didn't work. Okay, those are my dogs in the background. All right, so let me go ahead and open these categories. Oh, this chair, by the way, was a gift from my girlfriend's dad, and it's super comfortable. I've been using this chair for work, and a lot of my work requires me to sit for long periods of time. And so I didn't realize the necessity for a really good chair until half of my day until I realized that most of my day is actually going to be spent sitting down. So get yourselves a good chair. I love this chair. It's super comfortable, but it is a bit creaky, so you might hear some creaks. Right now, you mostly probably just hear the dogs, but you might hear some creaks throughout the episode. I said I was going to pull it up, and then I didn't pull it up. Doesn't he sound like a monkey, right? Okay, so for those, I don't know if you can see my notes here. By the way, I keep touching my face because like my skin is oily, and sometimes I'm like just trying to get a freaking little spot off. Probably TMI, but if any of you guys know any hacks for oily faces, put it down in the comments. Okay, so the first thing I actually want to talk about is the UEFA Champions League. For those of you who watch soccer, you know it's the biggest tournament in the world. Aside from the World Cup, obviously. It's the biggest club tournament there in the world. And every year, the top clubs from all of the major countries go. They send their best teams, and they try to compete for the Champions League Cup. So, for those of you who know me personally, outside of just my social media and my podcast, I'm a big soccer fan. Watch a lot of soccer. I watch leagues from all over the world, but one of my favorite teams, I would say my favorite club team, is FC Barcelona. Yes, it's partially because of Messi. I grew up watching him, and it's been incredible. We'll get to the Messi news later. This will be a good lead into that. But the Champions League comes along. Barcelona's in it. Well, they were in it, and I was optimistic despite their last 2 or 3 years of not playing so well. Or I would say, I mean, they've been playing well if you look at it like from a super objective standpoint. But when you compare, excuse me, I had a Coke Zero, I get a little gassy. When you compare the Barcelona's long history and I would say just the presence that other teams know them for, they just haven't been as impressive lately. So Barcelona goes into the Champions League. They obviously get past the group stages fine. It's the group stages. And they get to quarterfinals, which is where they've been eliminated a few times throughout the last few years. And going into it, we get paired up with Bayern Munich. Everybody knows Bayern Munich is the best team in Germany. A very strong team any year. They're like Barcelona, one of the top clubs in the world, one of Europe's giants, as they say. And they're always competing to try to win that tournament. And so when we get paired with Bayern, we have a solid team, but they are super stacked from all over. Great forwards, great midfielders, great defenders. The best goalie in the world. They're an incredible team. Even Barcelona's confidence kind of going into the game seems to be balancing on a very fine wire. I would say their confidence has been shaky due to their performances. They didn't win La Liga, which is usually expected of them. And so they go into this game kind of like, okay, this is our chance to prove ourselves as still a very dominant, very strong legacy team in Europe. And so they go in, and Bayern completely destroys Barcelona. It was embarrassing to watch. It ended up being 8-2, and it was one of those games that I feel will affect the club's confidence and identity, honestly, for a long time. I think it's going to take a very strong rebuild. Yeah, man, it messed them up. It reminded me of that game of Brazil versus Germany in the World Cup when it was being hosted by Brazil, and Germany like splattered them 7-2. I feel like that is a great example of one of those games that has still stuck with Brazil to this day. I feel like even when Brazil faces Germany, I mean, I think there's like a little bit of intimidation that goes into it, leading into it. Um, so I think that this is going to be one of those games for Barcelona. Um, Now we can move on to the topic about Messi, how it ties in. Right after the game, Barcelona announced that they are firing their head coach, and shortly after, Messi announced that he wants to leave Barcelona. For those of you who have followed soccer for a while, you know that there's always Messi transfer rumors going around. There's always, oh, Messi is interested in going to this club, or if Barcelona, for example, is having a shaky stream of games, they're like, oh, Messi needs a better club, or he wants a better club, he's going to be moving. So there's always those rumors. As a Barca fan, knowing how loyal Messi is and has been for decades, um, well, not decades, but more than a decade, almost decades. People know that Messi is not going anywhere. So that was me kind of leading into this, and then I see that it was actually an official statement that was put out. Messi has actually requested that he does not want to be in Barcelona anymore. After that Bayern game, I feel like it's very clear that Barcelona needs a full rebuild. I think it's more than just a coaching mistake, more than just a thin roster. I think Barcelona has a systematic problem of keeping talent from their academy, to keep them to stay for their other teams and to grow that talent the way they used to. They're struggling with that, and I think they're going to have to go back to that if they want to be a big team in Europe again. So Messi is toward the end of his career. I still think he's the best player in the world. And so as the best player in the world, I with only a few years of your peak available to you, I understand why he wouldn't want to be waiting to try to start something from scratch. He wants to use those last few years in his prime to win some cups, win tournaments, win championships. Um, he has had such a legacy career. He's given so much to the club, and he's just given so much to the sport of soccer or football that that I think he deserves it. I think he deserves the chance to go win, to be successful, to win the treble maybe with whatever team he goes for. He makes them an immediate threat. You guys can call me a Messi fanboy. I feel like anybody who watches soccer knows the dude's incredible. I think he's the GOAT. I think most people think he's the GOAT. Um, so we'll see what ends up happening. But he definitely wants to go, and I think Barcelona, you obviously don't want to keep a player who's troubled, who doesn't want to be there. I think it's best if they let him go. So, if we'll get into a little bit of the specifics of that. So Messi is still under contract, and technically he's under contract for a whole other year. And so usually the way contracts work, just like in every major sport, you sign a contract for so many years, a certain amount of guaranteed money, and then they'll add different bonuses on it. And then if another team wants you while you're in one of those contract years, they either pay a release clause or they offer a bid to the other club to try to buy that player. Messi's release clause is over $800 million, which would make it by far the biggest contract, the biggest transfer ever. So most teams, in fact, I don't know any team that wants to pay over $800 million for anybody. Even the GOAT, he's only got a few years left. If you could pay that money and guarantee that he'll have another 10 years of being the best, that's a no-brainer. But given that Messi's getting older, and you kind of have to form a team around him, it's going to be it'd be tough to justify that kind of amount. So obviously Messi doesn't think he's got much of a chance to go via the transfer fee, and I don't know the amount of money. It's just crazy to think the amount of money that it would take for a team to bid. So Messi wants to get that waived because originally he had a clause in his contract that said, I could still leave for free if I decide, almost like if his contract had ended. I could leave early. However, there was a specific period where he had to invoke that clause that he had put in. And he was just late. So he announced that he wanted to leave Barcelona, but he did it a little bit too late outside of that available clause. And so now Barcelona and Barcelona's lawyers and the team management or whatever is like, well, you missed that. So now if somebody wants you, they have to pay our what we want as the transfer fee, over 800 million. No team's going to do that. Barcelona is kind of, well, Messi's kind of stuck, and Barcelona's put in this position where they're like, man, should we just waive him and let him go because he's a legend? But we would kind of lose out on a lot of those hundreds of millions. We'll see what they do. It's obviously up to their higher ups and their lawyers. I, even though I'm a Barca fan, even though I think that Messi has been a legend for so long, and I would hate to see him leave, I think he has given the sport, like I said, so much, and the club even more, that they got to let him go. Like, let him go to whatever team he wants, and let the man shine for his last 3-4 years at the top of the world. So we'll see. I have been talking to my brother. He's also a big soccer fan, about where we think Messi's going to go. And I've been talking to some of my friends about it. And everybody's giving me different ideas. Most people agree he's probably going to go to the Premier League. He's talked about it before. He's expressed interest in some Premier League clubs before. But now that it's a real possibility, we're trying to decide which team, and I have no idea. I personally think it's going to be, I would have to say he's going to Man City. So if somebody were to ask me to predict where Messi's going, I would say he's going to Manchester City. Back with Pep Guardiola, who's managing that club. He's an incredible coach. He managed Barcelona for a couple of years. They won the treble under him. He's an excellent coach, and he's a coach who has a style that's very that mirrors Messi's game. That it works really well around that kind of player. So I think if he goes over there, he'll go to a familiar play style that he likes, and obviously he will have a very competitive team already. So if he were to go there, they would be expected to win a treble, and I think he would do it. The dude, the guy is such a great player. He's so incredible. I think if you surround him with some younger talent, with some strong, dynamic players, I think that was a big problem at Barcelona for him. I think he'll win the treble. I think he'll take it with Man City. Other places where he might go that have been talked about are Liverpool, obviously, are always in contention. They have a ton of money. They're a great team, attractive to a lot of top players. I've heard Chelsea go around. He's actually expressed interest in Chelsea, so that would be my second pick if I were to try to guess, and it wouldn't be Man City. I think Chelsea would take him. But every top team, the Spurs are in it. Everybody wants to have that kind of player on their team. We'll see where he ends up. Let me see my next topic. Oh, okay. So that'll conclude for today's soccer news. UFC news. So UFC. I forgot the number. UFC 252 just occurred. And it was a great event. So for those of you who know UFC 252, it was between DC, Daniel Cormier, and Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight championship. This was the third fight in their trilogy, and a much anticipated fight because of the way the first two went. The first one, DC beat Stipe by knockout, and then the second one, vice versa, Stipe knocked out DC. So any kind of fight like that leads to an incredible rivalry. And a lot of anticipation to see who would take that third fight. So the event happened. We'll talk about one more fight on that card in a bit. But so first the DC Stipe fight. So the fight starts, and it's immediately pretty high pace, especially for heavyweights. DC immediately pressures Stipe. He's got a very aggressive pace. He's moving forward, changing levels, has some really quick striking, especially for his size, because he came in looking a little bit heavier. But he was looking great. The second round comes, and Stipe is doing a little bit better. He's not eating so many punches, but DC's still dominating that round. DC was doing great, and then right at the end, he gets rocked with a hook. That spot has been itching for like 5 minutes, and I was trying to ignore it, but I couldn't. Okay, so overall, I think Stipe deserved that victory. I think he was dominant. I do feel for DC though, because he got that eye poke, and I don't know how anybody could finish a fight even close to their at peak performance when they had like half a finger in their eye. If you guys look at that picture, Stipe is like reaching out, and like half of it, his knuckle is right at the socket. So that's disgusting. DC was looking all Undertaker like on one side at the end of the fight after that. So I hope it doesn't cause any permanent damage or anything too lasting. We've seen how that looks on some fighters. It's you'd hate to see their overall health, especially later on in their life, be so negatively affected by their fighting career. I know overall, any fighter would expect their body to wear. They expect aches, different joints having a little bit of trouble, but you don't want something like eyesight, things like that, things that affect your everyday just functioning. So, I hope everything goes well for DC. He's a great fighter. But that does kind of suck. He's had two big rivalries in his career, two trilogies against Stipe and against John Jones, and he was on the losing end of. Oh, actually, the one against John Jones, he only fought twice, but he lost both of them. But that's two rivalries where he came out on the losing end. So DC's still a great. Obviously, what he's done in wrestling is incredible. What he's done in mixed martial arts is still amazing. He's one of the greatest martial artists ever. But it is an asterisk on his resume that the two big fights, the two big rivalries that really would put him, as one of the GOATs, he lost them both. So, yeah. Stipe, I mean, congrats to Stipe. Stipe is now widely regarded as the greatest heavyweight in UFC history. And for those of you, I've seen a lot of people online saying, "Oh, Stipe has only beat bums." Stipe has an incredible record. He's fought Overeem. He has wins over Ngannou, against Mark Hunt. He's beat Verdum. Um, Dos Santos, who else? I mean, all those fighters right there already. Stipe has a very impressive resume. I think it's very clear that he deserves that title as the greatest heavyweight in UFC history. Also on that card, one of my favorite fighters, Sean O'Malley, fought. And I have talked about it before. I was hyping him up. I think he's fun to watch. Kind of an idiot, but very fun to watch. Um, and Sean O'Malley got knocked out, kind of. So if you watch the fight, he was on the receiving end of a couple of calf kicks, and one of those calf kicks by Chito Vera hit him in a weird spot. And I was watching other videos about it. It's happened to Henry Cejudo and other fighters, where I guess if you get hit on a very specific spot on your leg, it affects your nerves in a way that it makes your foot kind of lose sensitivity. It loses feeling. It goes numb, and then they have no control over it. So immediately after one of those calf kicks, Sean O'Malley is just kind of backstepping, creating a little bit of space between him and Cheeto. And his foot like doesn't feel the ground, and his ankle's just like flopping like a dead fish, just like this. And immediately you're watching the fight. I was like, what the hell's wrong with his ankle? It keeps going, and he's kind of trying to step on it even more, like to get feeling, and also to keep his footwork for the fight, and his foot's not like feeling the ground right. So he kind of knew something was up. He didn't recover that well from it. I mean, it was difficult because his leg is basically dead in that moment, and he immediately just kind of laid back. Well, Cheeto applied some pressure. He laid back pretty easily, tried to kind of pull a guard from the bottom, and just got rocked with some elbows. I think he went out for like a second. I'm not sure. It was kind of hard to see in the replay, but I'm pretty sure Sean O'Malley was out for half a second and then kind of came back up after the fight was stopped. I have no problem with the stoppage. It was kind of fast, but he was not going to recover from that. You could see him getting rocked with those elbows from the bottom. Um, so I don't know what happens to Sean O'Malley moving forward. Obviously, he's still very young. He's got a bright future, but in his immediate future, Chito Vera just rocked the UFC with that. Um, I feel like a lot of people were looking at this Chito Vera fight as the next step towards making it toward those top tier fighters, those top 10 opponents. People thought if Sean O'Malley wins this, and he was expected to win it, then he'll be ready for those, next fights before the Cody Garbrandt or Aljamain Sterling fights in the division. Now, I think he's going to have to kind of prove himself again. I would like to see a rematch against Chito Vera if it's given. Although I don't know if the UFC is going to make it. I don't know if there's enough interest or money to go into a fight like that. They might have to put him against another. Well, I would like to still see him against a top 15 opponent, but we'll see. I feel like they were guarding him a lot, and I feel like this makes it look worse that he lost because he was being kind of, blanketed and protected, and he lost anyway. The loss, it still counts. I think it's very valid that Chito was going for kicks, that he was attempting them. Did he get lucky that he hit a specific spot that made his leg go out? Yeah, he might have gotten lucky a little bit, but it still took those leg kicks, those attempts at distance control to do that. So good win for Chito. People are a little bit surprised that Sean O'Malley's kind of been a little bit of a sore loser about it on his YouTube. I mean, Sean O'Malley's a great fighter. Love to watch him fight. I mean, did anyone expect him to all of a sudden become like this super humble, mature sportsman? Like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, very good win for Chito. He deserved it. He was a better fighter than me. No, he's a young fighter. He's arrogant in a way that helps him be successful. So yeah, he goes out saying he still feels he's undefeated. Chito got lucky. He like, oh, it didn't count as a loss. He was gonna beat him. Whatever, the loss is on his record. I don't think there's any asterisks behind that loss. It counts. He definitely lost. But we'll see how he recovers moving forward. I still see him eventually being champion of the bantamweight division, but that might not be so in the immediate future after this. That's enough for... Oh, actually, no. What am I doing? So, moving forward, there are some other fights going on. I'll talk about those specifically if there are interesting fights that I specifically want to cover. But given that I'm trying to keep this podcast a little bit more general, just to give me a little bit more room to include topics that I would like, I'll cover mostly the fights that I'm very interested in. So Khabib versus Gaethje is happening in October now, and I am pumped, as everybody should be. So Khabib was originally going to be fighting Tony Ferguson. That fight is cursed. I'm pretty sure I talked about this in my last episode. There's some kind of brujeria involved in there because the fight has been canceled 5 times now. So this time it was because Khabib had passport troubles due to COVID. There was basically international travel was not being allowed in many countries. And so he wasn't able to come over to the US to fight Tony Ferguson. So they found another opponent for him, Justin Gaethje, dangerous man, and Justin Gaethje was on some sharpshooter stuff on that fight. Okay, you guys might be able to hear that. I live somewhat close to an airport, so you might hear that. So yeah, that fight. So Justin Gaethje destroys Tony Ferguson. Did it in a very convincing fashion, establishing himself as the top contender for Khabib's belt. Now Khabib Gaethje is going to happen. I'm excited for it. Actually, immediately after the Gaethje-Ferguson fight, I put a prediction, and I want this to be quoted now in my video because it's already on my Facebook. Maybe I'll include a screenshot, but I'll tell you exactly how Khabib's career or how that little, group in the lightweight division is going to end up being. So this is what's going to happen. Justin Gaethje beat Tony Ferguson, right? He's going to fight Khabib. Khabib is going to beat Justin Gaethje. I'm saying it right now. He's going to beat him. He's going to submit him. He'll get to 29-0. From there, I think Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson is going to be made, and I know that they've already, like, what was it, 2 days ago? I was reading that they have already started to talk about that fight. Offers have been made. I made this Facebook post before those offers were made. Why am I all of a sudden Bernie Sanders? um, yeah, so I made that Facebook post before those offers were made. So go ahead and look at that post. Like I said, I'll try to create a screenshot and include it in this video if I can find it. But yeah, so Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier. I think Tony Ferguson will take Dustin. And then finally the fight. Well, actually, before that, I think I included this in that post too. I don't know. We'll see during editing. But Khabib's going to beat Gaethje. Dustin is going to lose. Tony's going to beat Dustin. And then Khabib is going to reach out to GSP for that legacy fight, for that 30-0. But I think GSP is going to say no, whether it be they don't want to meet at 155 because GSP's never fought that light, or maybe just because GSP knows he's got a historic legacy, fantastic career. He doesn't need to put that into jeopardy. I don't think it would affect his GOAT status in MMA, but why would he want to just add a loss toward the end of his career? Just because he is a little bit older, not because I think Khabib is a better martial artist than GSP. So I think that fight will start to be talked about, but it won't be made. And then Khabib will end up fighting Tony for that 30-0 fight. Finally making that fight happen after the 6th attempt. I think it's gonna happen, and I think it's gonna be Khabib's last win in his career before he retires. We'll see. We'll see. If I'm right, you guys all owe me $1. All 2 of you that watch. All right. Let me go back to my notes here. All right. The last few. Oops, man! I just rocked my desk. So the last bit of news that I want to talk about for the podcast is some movie news. But before I get into a lot of the movie topics that I want to discuss, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? It was announced that Chadwick Boseman has passed away. And I know it's kind of a somber way to start this this last bit of the podcast, but I think it's important to note because of the career and legacy that he has left in not only the movie industry, but pop culture and just society in general. I think he was an impressive guy. It's tough with celebrities because we don't know them. We don't know how they are. But I think Chadwick Boseman definitely had a sense of real, genuine care for others. And he left behind a great, not only legacy as an actor, but as a person. I know as a brown kid growing up, reading comic books, I was always very into them, but I did notice that all the heroes were white in them. So it's always been inspiring for me to see characters of color have those kinds of heroes and role models in popular media. And Chadwick Boseman has definitely played a huge role in inspiring people like me, to see heroes that look like me, or that look like people that normally aren't represented in those kinds of roles. So there's that. Kind of a tough transition, but we'll go ahead and go into the other movie news that I had. I just figured originally I wasn't sure if I should talk about it, but I figured I would just kind of say a few words on it. I mean, none of them will hear it. My heart really does go out to his family. I hope they recover, knowing that he inspired so many people. Let's see here. Okay, so some movie news. Oh yeah, so DC had a big event releasing a bunch of their trailers, and I'm going to start off with the one that I am very excited about. Batman. For those of you who watched that Batman trailer, that is exactly the kind of style that I like with Batman. I know DC sometimes gets crap for being, the dark. They have like this dark, sad, grim style for their movies. until Justice League and Zack Snyder messed up a bunch of it. But that was their criticism. I think specifically for the character of Batman, not all of DC or the DCEU, but for the character of Batman, I think that dark, serious style works really well for the character. I think it does great in tying in the comics and the feel of the comics with, how it would be applied in real life, in our world. So I like what they do. I think that this trailer gave off some serious Nolan slash Seven. I know a lot of people have been saying that it reminds them of that Seven feel. If you guys have seen that movie, great movie. Um, I agree. You watch the trailer and you do kind of get, not just obviously with their lighting and the color in the trailer, but the overall feel, the dialogue, the angles. I do see it. And we'll see. I'm very excited. I think this was a great teaser trailer, and it was a legit teaser. I know a lot of times big movies will drop teaser trailers and they like end up being like this slow pan around like a simple logo, or like the characters like, the side of his face you get to see, or like a butt cheek or something like that, like one random part of the costume or uniform. So when I hear teaser trailer, that's exactly what I want. A trailer. It doesn't have to be a full one, but something that gives me something from the movie that I can base my excitement off of, other than just a side shot or like the shadow of a character. So full on teaser. They've only shot, I think, about like, what was it, 10% of the movie, due to COVID. It stopped a lot of production, including the one for this Batman movie. And I mean, we'll see. Oh, that's my AC. Damn, that was loud. We'll see how they moving forward, but I feel like they definitely set a good tone and they excited a lot of fans with this. With this trailer, with this style. I hope that they stick with it, and I think they're going to do a great job. I think Robert Pattinson looks great as Batman. I think he looked really cool in the costume. Even as Bruce Wayne, it's obviously a younger Bruce Wayne, so you don't see that such a polished Bruce Wayne like you would expect. They're like people associate with the character, but I think he looks like a good young Bruce Wayne. He's obviously an incredible actor. I've rewatched some of his movies recently, one of his or a few of his most recent movies, and they're incredible. You guys should watch The Lighthouse. You guys should watch Good Time. He's gonna do great as Bruce Banner. Jesus Christ. He's gonna do great as Bruce Wayne. But he's also going to make an incredible Batman. And no, not just because of his jawline, but his jaw looks like that comic book jaw that works with Batman. So I think that's going to work well too. We'll see. DC also came out with a trailer for their Suicide Squad game. I think it looks great. I think they make great video games. I loved the Arkham Knight video games. So I really hope that they do well. I'll go ahead and buy that Suicide Squad game. They also came out with a Wonder Woman trailer. I thought the first Wonder Woman was fine. I thought it was good, not great. So I'm hoping that this one builds on that, because it was nice to see a DC movie that wasn't bad after watching Suicide Squad and Justice League. Speaking of Justice League, they finally came out with that Zack Snyder, the Snyder cut for Justice League. I don't want to give that movie crap again, but I've already expressed my opinions. If you want to know what I think of the Snyder cut, go ahead and watch my last video, or I'll kind of summarize it here. I don't see why they're making it when the first one was so bad. I think they cut this trailer to show like, wow, look how completely different it is. But I also think that this whole Snyder Cut thing is basically giving a studio a second chance, because they got to put out the first movie, trash movie, awful Justice League movie, and basically they get to hear all of the criticism, all of the bad stuff in their movie, and then they're like, oh, that was never the movie that was intended to make. Look at this movie. And then they can obviously edit the trailers and stuff to make it look like like it was completely different. Like this is nowhere near this one. But yeah, you get that after all of the feedback and all of the crap from the first one. And if this sets a precedent, which I hope it doesn't, it's going to give movie studios the opportunity to make a crap film and then be like, oh, that wasn't what we really had planned. Here's the extended, or here's the other version of it. It gives them second chances when the first movie had no redeemable qualities. I mean, maybe the action scenes. Zack Snyder is a good cinematography director, but in terms of an actual movie, and I know I talked about it, Joss Whedon directed that one, but it was crap. I just don't see how they're gonna make that movie good, even if it's a little bit altered. So there's that one. Was that all the movie news? Yeah, I guess I thought I had some more, but that's all the movie news. Well, Tenet is going to be coming out pretty soon. It's going to be coming out in theaters. It's going to be one of those movies that's basically supposed to help push audiences to start trying going to theaters again. We'll see what kind of money is being made. I know that some movies have already started to come out, like the New Mutants movie, although it hasn't gotten the best reviews. It's actually gotten decent numbers in terms of box office. I think Tenet is going to bring up the box office, and it'll make people start going to movie theaters again. We'll see. I'm excited to watch it. I'm gonna. I don't know if it's gonna be released for some kind of download early on, but that's probably the route that I'm gonna go for now, to watch that movie, and I'll probably review it. In a podcast episode. I'm not going to make a whole other video for it, but I'll designate a specific segment in my podcast to reviewing the movie when I do watch it, when it does come out. Some of the reviews have already started to come out. I don't like reading too many of them. I like reading reviews, but I don't like reading them leading into the movie before I watch it, because I feel like then I start to look for things that or for like feels that I read from the reviews. So overall, I try not to get too swayed by reviews anyway. But if somebody is like, oh yeah, the movie had a very slow pace. If I'm watching that movie, I might kind of expect a slow pace, and then it might kind of alter my perception of the overall pace of the movie and other components of the movie. So so even though the reviews have come out, I've tried to stay away from most of them, especially if I know a specific critic is very inclined to be a little too detailed in his reviews. So I'm gonna watch it. I'll review it here, and we'll talk about it later. The trailers look great, though. I've seen a lot of advertisement for it online now. Different interviews with John David Washington, Robert Pattinson. So I'm excited for the movie. And we'll see. We'll see also what happens with theaters and with this whole COVID situation. That's it for today's episode. Please remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I post a lot of announcements there. You also get to know a little bit about kind of what goes into these editing videos, and what goes into kind of my daily routine with this stuff. You also will see a bunch of cute pictures of my dogs. So if you don't care about me but you love puppies, go ahead and follow me on those platforms. That's about it. I'll go ahead. This might be a short episode. I don't know how long I've been recording, but I'll go ahead and put it out. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.